let's jump into the news stories for the week. And I want to start with the most recent one, which is we're recording this today on the 7th. And today is the weigh-ins for this weekend's fights. And Ryan Benoit, I guess, successfully made weight, if you could call it that. His fight
Well,
was
he was
off.
4 pounds over.
He was 4 pounds
Even at
over.
he was, yeah, he was three
Jesus.
pounds over. I believe he weighed in at 129, I believe, or 139, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
he
So
he still didn't make it. Like,
right, and the fight was called off because he wasn't able to stand by his own accord at the weigh-ins. Now I'm not going to make this a podcast about weight cutting because maybe we should do one, right?
yeah,
Maybe we should do one. But look, it's it's a cancer on the sport, right?
yeah, it's a thing that, you know, whenever, and we've seen multiple and multiple videos down through the years of fighters in bad shape during weight cuts and everything like that. With Ryan's particular one today, you know, you're talking about a guy who has to be carried out to get onto the scale with guys on either side of him. Like, for me, how do we even get to that stage? You know, how do we even get to that stage? You know, his coaches, his team are there, the commissioner there, UFC is there. They have a good indication about what's going on and how a weight cut is going. You know, you want to get him to that level and then end up pulling the fight anyway. To me, I just feel that decision should have been made so much sooner.
I agree. Like he's on the brink of death, right? Like
Mm,
he's on the brink of death, and you're like, nah, you'd be grand, just go away in anyway.
yeah,
And you know, the other thing is he's 4 pounds over. If you're
yeah,
4 pounds over and in that state, why bother?
exactly. That's my point. You know, if he made it down and if he was pushing on the weight limit, which for him probably would have been 126 pounds, it was at flyweight, wasn't it? That
I'm
fight.
pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So, you know, he's not even, like you said, he's not even close to that weight. So I think that fight should have been pulled behind the scenes. You're bringing him out there into the spotlight. You're creating drama. You're putting shining a bad light on the sport by doing things like that. You know, they carried him out, lifted him onto the scale. They took their arms off so he could weigh in. He barely could keep his footing on the scale when he was let go of. Just weighed in, had to be carried down and out around. And I was like, I hope that this fight is not going to happen. And I'm glad it did get pulled eventually. But it's just the ever-ending, ongoing battle that we're going to have with weight cutting in the sport. It needs to be seriously looked at before something bad really in a major organization. All it takes is one mishap, and that, you know, we've seen it time and time again, and things going on the regional scene and stuff like that. But you know, if it comes too close to home and it happens in the UFC or Bellator or one of these big promotions where they have somebody get seriously hurt or even die, that's going to be bad news. So where do we go from here? I don't know.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, obviously, there was a death very close to home for you guys, right?
Yes.
And you know, it was recent enough that nobody should forget about it.
No, I
Um,
don't think anybody should ever forget about João Carvalho's death. It
Absolutely
was
not.
it was absolutely terrible that had happened, and it was very unfortunate. And I guess, you know, we're in a stage right now where MMA is suffering, but hopefully just it's suffering in Ireland for the greater good, that it'll be recognised and it will be safer for our fighters coming through after that mishap and after that unfortunate event with João. But you know, we see it like we're talking about Zhao's death, which was on the regional scene in Ireland. We're not talking about the regional scene here now, Harry. We're talking about the UFC. We're talking about the pinnacle of the sport here, and it's happening at the pinnacle of the support of the sport. And I just hate seeing it. My heart sinks every time. And you just want these fighters to be healthy. They're going in there and they're putting their bodies and their brains on the line when they go in there, and it's just so terrible to see. And I don't know what can be done. What would you think? You know, you could look towards ONE FC's mythology of
We don't know what
hydration
that is.
tests.
We don't know what
Mm,
that is. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like you don't know what it is because it's not publicized and it's not well documented. To me, um, you spot check. You know, USADA just turn up. and they test you. At the same time that they test you, they take your weight.
Yeah.
Right.
And do a hydration test as well.
And they do exactly. Do a hydration.
But that's what they should do. I don't think that they are doing that, but I believe that that's what ONE FC or one championships, whatever you want to call them, that's what they are doing now. So they will call at certain stages throughout a fighter's camp and do a hydration test.
But that's camp.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's camp all the way up. I'm not too sure how they do it all the way up to the fight, but I know that John Wayne Parr had some issues with it where they forced him not to cut any more weight, where they had to change around his fight with Nicky Holzken. And hopefully, is it a perfect thing? Probably not perfect, but it's definitely better than what's going on in the likes of the UFC and Bellator right now. At least they're trying to do something about it. But I don't really know if there is an easy solution to this problem.
And I think the other thing you could do, right, is you could do, let's say Ryan Benoit. Let's take Ryan Benoit, right? Ryan Benoit, let's say he'd managed to make weight, makes 126, right? Weighs in successfully, goes and fights. Tomorrow he weighs what? 136, 137, right?
If not more,
right? Yeah. Exactly. So what you do is 3 days after the fight, you go and check Ryan Benoit's weight. Yeah. Whatever he weighs, let's say he weighs 142, right? He's now a 145 fighter.
Yeah.
But that happens
or even even 135. You could even you don't even want
145 fighter, right? If you're gonna do it, let's do it. Do you know what I mean? We want to eradicate weight cutting. Let's eradicate weight cutting. If he walks around at 142, fine, he can fight at 145, right? If a guy walks around at 146, can fight at 145, right? I think we should make a limit of a pound to 2 pounds cutting, right? Yeah. If that's just you need, maybe Ryan had gone out and had a couple of pizzas with the team and had a good time or whatever, and he's carrying a little bit excess, fine. But I think the introduction of some further weight classes, a 5 pound increment, and then you are ruthless with what Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard are doing to classify the fighters into divisions, so that there is no jumping or this or that, or if you're going to jump, you can only jump up, right? There's no jumping down divisions anymore.
Something that would probably help that process too is the introduction of more weight classes as well.
Exactly.
But then, you have to do it correctly, because the introduction of more weight classes means more opportunities for fighters to cut down to different weights again. Whereas if you wanted to, say, do a 150 weight class, if someone was on the fence about cutting down to 145, that extra 5 pound weight difference, they might be encouraged to try and get down to 150. So it kind of needs to be a bunch of things put together, done correctly in order for it to be done safely.
And then on the point about the introduction of new weight classes, the way that you counteract that, I'll just cut more, right, is out of camp, you weigh fighters. After fights, you weigh fighters. And if their weight is more than the weight class they're fighting in, you can't fight in that weight class, right?
Yeah.
Fighters should be walking around. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're gonna be a Daniel Cormier, right? I think there's like a subsidiary effect to this. If you're going to be a Daniel Cormier, you're going to walk around outside of camp and balloon up to 265 pounds, right? Either dogs are mental in the right.
He's not happy about weight cutting either.
He's not. Either it forces fighters to, I guess this is where one of the problems is. You're kind of forcing fighters to stay in shape all year round, right? Whereas as fans, we shouldn't as people, viewers of the sport, we shouldn't have that control, right? If a fighter wants to go and get 300 pounds and then cut back down to 155, if that's their weight class, then they should be allowed to do that, right? But I feel like there should be a healthy medium, right?
Yeah.
A healthy medium where you test a fighter when they're in shape, and when they're in shape, they're 155, let's just say. Cool, you're now 155. You because we know, right? You've been around enough fighters, I've been around enough fighters, that there's guys in the gym that I train at, and they walk around 20, 30 pounds, 35 pounds over what they fight at.
Yeah.
No more.
Yeah. Well, fighters do need protection from themselves as well. Like, they are fighters at the end of the day. And when you're preparing yourself for a fight, it's eight, they'll everyone will say 80% mental, 20% physical. And I think it is that, you're mentally preparing yourself. You have that mentality where you feel that you could be anyone in the world, and you will do anything when you're in that mindset. So like, they look at the weight cut as something that's normal in the sport, and they're always going to be looking to try and get down weight because that's what everybody else is doing as well. So it's like, people will, you sign out a contracted weight. It is the fighter's responsibility to get to that weight, but they need protection from themselves and the authorities to set up a safer environment in order for them to cut weight, or we're going to have a death in the sport. It's going to happen. It's 100% another death in the sport. We're going to have a death at a major UFC event or Bellator event, and that's big trouble. We don't need to be dealing with that in the sport right now.
Right. And when you were saying, oh, like, this isn't the regional scene, this is the UFC, I'm like, but that's the point. It shouldn't even happen at the regional scene.
It shouldn't happen at all.
Let alone.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And I think, as I say, to protect fighters from themselves, if you have to do it, you have to go to the extreme. It has to be all the way. You just have to eradicate weight cutting, full stop. Otherwise, as you say, these fighters will do anything to get an inch. Right. Yeah. To get an inch, to get an edge, and they're like, I'm going to go in there and smash this dude.
It's the fight. So, it's the fight game. That's the mental aspect to it. You want to ensure when you are a fighter that you have the utmost of mental edge, and no matter what, if it's 1 pound of weight, if it's 2 pounds of weight, it's a scary thing. And I'm not too sure if there's a solution around the corner for this either. Like, is it? I just hope it doesn't get to the stage where something really bad does happen and we're forced to make changes. I'd much rather prefer that changes be made before something bad happens.